Any nervosity previously, it should go away, and tolerance should increase in you automatically. You should be more self-composed, more pleasant, and more non-insulting to anyone around you. If it is otherwise, that means the practice is running on wrong way. Always take it as a guideline of your practice. And this will be experienced by you as continuous self-awareness. In the aphorisms of Patanjali, it is defined as self-awareness facing you. That is, suppose I have a mirror in my hand, and suppose gradually I brought it to a correct position so that I can see my own face in it. Such an adjustment will be there for your self-awareness. That is what Patanjali defines. This is one aspect which you will clearly observe. There is a second aspect. Disappearance of obstacles. This is the second inevitable result you will find if your practice was to be correct. In the beginning, we find many obstacles. We have a very busy routine of the day, and we have many appointments with our friends and officers, and sometimes we have tours often. So we have to break our routine many times. But if your practice were to be running in right line, it establishes itself more and more with you, so that it will be there with you wherever you go. And this self-awareness will be there with you wherever you go. Previously, it was being disturbed whenever our friends visited, or whenever we had an appointment with anyone. So there is a break in the routine previously, and the break in the routine will be repaired gradually. Under no circumstances you will have a break of routine. This is what is called gaining mastery over your routine. For the first time, you are a master of your routine. Previously, you were a slave of your routine. Now you are a master of your routine. Previously, you were restless while doing your routine, to finish it somehow or other. Now you are pleasant in completing your routine. It is a pleasure to attend your routine now. Such a change occurs within a maximum period of 3 months after you start yoga practice. And with these two guidelines, understand if your practice is going in right lines or not. That is what Patanjali promises to us in the 29th aphorism of the first chapter. There are 4 chapters in all, and now we are in the end of the first chapter. So, if your procedure in uttering the sacred name of the Lord is correct, you will overcome all the obstacles. And then he gives us a few typical examples of obstacles. Obstacles exist in our mind, whereas in the environment there are only persons and things. What do you find in the environment? Either some persons or some furniture or some walls or some doors. Do you find some things called obstacles? Obstacles exist in the mind, not around us. and they will be removed. And the first obstacle Patanjali gives is disease. If you advise a friend to begin to practice yoga with you, immediately he feels that he can stop it after getting a cure of his disease. He says, I am having gastric ulcer and I am trying to cure this. After the treatment is complete and after health is established, I will begin to practice yoga. This is foolish. It is like a fellow thinking that he will go to the doctor after his sickness is cured. Suppose a fellow is sick. He is on the bed. Suppose he thinks, I am not able to move and I cannot go to the doctor. Then I will wait until this sickness is cured and then go to the doctor. That means he is an idiot. If he is lucky enough to have this sickness cured on the bed, he has no necessity to go to a doctor. So it is the occasion that requires a doctor. So if a person were to be sick, if he straight begins to practice yoga without any thought or consideration, then gradually his sickness recedes. Good habits are automatically engrafted in him. He begins to behave better with food and drink, work and rest and sex. He is already a master. So he knows that the practice of yoga can make him overcome his disease. And suppose a fellow is practicing yoga, in the middle he becomes sick. Suppose he is having temperature. The doctor says this is pulmonary double pneumonia. It makes no difference to him. Because what is required to practice yoga is very simple. He is not to take any drastic practices at all. So instead of stopping yoga to give respect to a disease, the fellow continues yoga and the disease recedes. This is the first obstacle Patanjali gives. Second obstacle is called carelessness. One fellow begins practicing asana and pranayama, but after 1 month or 2 months, there are a number of friends visiting him. Automatically, he feels busy and he thinks, let me wait until the friends go away and then start again. He is a fool who dies without practicing yoga, and by the time he dies, he is in the same state in which he started. So, this is the second big impediment. Suppose the house is thickly populated sometimes, and he wants to take advantage of this as his argument against yoga practice. Because we have the tendency to create a logic which is convenient. We wish to believe that the house is full of people. We wish to believe that we have a journey, therefore let us start it again after returning from a journey. Here, stand tight and begin to practice. You will understand that you have no business to stop when once you start. After 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, you will fall in a line with yoga practice and your carelessness disappears. And the so-called sweet bluff of impossibility goes away from your mind. This is the second impediment which Patanjali indicates. A third impediment is doubt. We begin to practice yoga. After 1 year we begin to doubt if at all there is any effect upon us or not. That means we have not started yoga of our own accord and free will. That means some fellow prevailed upon us and convinced us to start yoga practice. And we succumbed to his suggestion just as we succumbed to whiskey. But the habit of whiskey takes hold and goes on increasing, whereas yoga practice started of the advice of another person. It loses its strength upon you. After some time you begin to doubt about the reality of yoga. Suppose after 1 year we begin to think it is all a wild imagination. There is no truth in this. Like that we think after 1 year. This is why you are asked to practice without any expectation. Those who expect many strange things will stop in the middle. Some people believe that they get powers by practicing yoga. Let them not begin it, because Patanjali never promised any power. No real master promised anything to us. Once a disciple, after 3 or 4 years of practice, questioned his master, "What is it that we got after starting practice of yoga? What is it that we gained?" Then the master smiled and said, "Did I ask you to start the practice of yoga? Or did you come to me and said you begin to practice yoga?" The real master never recommends any fellow to start practicing yoga. He will inform and give the right path only when asked. He will expose people to the good things of yoga practice. He will open the book of yoga practice before our eyes, and that too only when we ask him. So the master said, "Do you remember ever I asked you to practice yoga?" He said, "No." "Then why do you ask me?" "Do you remember myself promising any powers or anything by practicing yoga? You asked me, what did I gain? Now I answer you, because you asked me today. It is not to gain anything, but it is to lose something you are expected to practice yoga. That is what the great master answered. That is the master who is called Kuthumi. My dear brother, it is not to gain anything, but it is to lose something you have to practice yoga. Do you know what to lose? To lose the undesirable traits in you. To lose something harmful in you. It is to get rid of your ignorance that you practice yoga. So you will be washed off of something, and nothing is added in your bag when you practice yoga. So people get a doubt when they begin to practice yoga on the recommendation of others. Again and again they stop, and again and again they stop. And sometimes they change gurus. And I think all of you know the name of the great master Ramakrishna, the master of Vivekananda. During his time there was a Hatha yogi who was having great power. he took sand in his hand and made it sugar and asked a fellow to taste. Like that, he has done many things. He used to drink concentrated nitric acid, and he used to chew pieces of glass and eat. And Vivekananda asked his guru, he is having such power, and I know your path is the royal path. How is it you are not having any power? Then Ramakrishna said, you approach him and try to get some power. Then Vivekananda one day started to approach the new guru, and it was late in the night. There were many trees. It was quite a jungle on the way. You know, the jungles in the tropical countries are dangerous. They are not like the jungles in the colder countries. When he put his torchlight, he saw a serpent just before his feet, and he came back. Ramakrishna asked, did you approach the Guru? No, he said. Today, once again, tomorrow you go and approach. During daytime, he started next day, and a car crossed him with great speed, and it was only a hair-breadth escape, and Vivekananda came back. The Guru asked him, did you approach the Guru? He said, no. Try tomorrow. He said, I don't want to. Then Ramakrishna asked, what's the reason? Then Vivekananda said, I now come to understand what power is. I am able to see what power saved me in two situations. I understand now that the power knows better than what I know. Let the power handle me as its own instrument to do something useful, instead of myself trying to use the power in a foolish way. Until one reaches to such a point of understanding what is power, one has to lead his yogic career in doubt and stop somewhere. One fellow said, I have tried Patajali yoga for 5 years. I didn't find any results. I stopped it. Then I started practicing Tao meditation for 3 years. Stopped it. I practiced Hatha yoga for 4 years. My health improved and nothing more was there. I stopped it. I began to meditate the theosophical meditation. There was something beautiful in the early days. Afterwards, there is no change. I stopped it. So this is another obstacle. The fellow exists where he was in the beginning before he dies. And he dies in the same state at which he has started. And then next obstacle and impediment is mistake. Faulty way of doing things, leading us to many dangerous ways. We take a fountain pen in the hand and a paper, put the pen on the paper, the hand begins to move and write passages. Every day we begin to practice it late in the night for about an hour or 2 or 3. We say that the masters are dictating things to us. We get all nasty passages with the signatures like Master Moria, Master Kuthumi, etc. That is all our own wishful thinking, leading to wild imagination and gradually leading to gross insincerity and self-deception. In course of life, we lose our head and we lose our argumentative power. And it will be a repetition of the story of Macbeth. That is, there will be some verifiable things occurring in our life. For example, I get a passage on paper that someone was thinking of me late in the night for 5 minutes. The next day I verify with him and he says, wonderful, it is correct. It is a coincidence which some fellow has caught hold of from his mind, brought it to my mind and made me write in the paper. Do you know who that fellow is? He is one among the recently dead souls. There are people still who have not taken their way into evolution after their death. Everywhere they are moving in space. And one of these fellows will lodge into our beautiful brains. And he begins to dictate most mischievous and misleading things. And we verify one or two things and find correct. And from the next day, he begins to dictate what he wants. He wants to gratify his desires through us. He gives a message, go and marry Miss So-and-so. There is a fall. This is what is called the story of Macbeth. And people say that they are practicing yoga. People say that they are getting dictations from the masters. Unless what is dictated suits to our common sense, it cannot be taken into account. And some people conduct dangerous pranayamas and they go into disease. And some people practice asanas that are not suited to their constitution. They are not properly advised by an experienced instructor. For example, a fellow having epilepsy 10 years ago, for the present no epilepsy since 10 years cured. If the fellow takes a head down posture, that is Shirshasana, within 1 week the disease relapses. And again, when once it begins to relapse, it will never be cured. Similarly, a person having heart palpitation and heart weakness, if he begins to practice Kumbhaka, he may have a worse condition of his own disease or sometimes death due to his practice. So it is another obstacle given by Patajali. And the next is what is called laziness. Let me practice yoga from tomorrow. This is the formula of the wonderful fellow. Tomorrow he wakes up very early in the morning by 9:30 and then says to himself, better luck tomorrow. And then one of his friends advises to him, most inconveniently, that he should have an alarm watch. And then he has the alarm clock near his bed, within the reach of his hand. Then the alarm is faithful. It is as faithful as an experienced yogi. And then this fellow wants to believe that he is not conscious and he has stopped the watch. He wants to stop the watch, but he wishes to believe that he is unconscious, that he has done it unconsciously. So better luck next day. That means better luck next birth. This is one of the major obstacles Patanjali explains. And the next one is not having a hold upon yoga practice for a very long time. Even though everything is perfect in his practice. Everything is done in mechanical perfection. You can never point out any defect in his way of doing things. And at the end of 20 years, you will find the fellow as he was. What is the reason? Only one thing. He has no enthusiasm in doing it. The very first principle, that is repetition of the idea that he should become better. It's not there. So the fellow lost his enthusiasm to practice yoga and continuing it mechanically, just like a machine. A machine runs in perfection, but there is no consciousness in the machine. There is no enthusiasm in the machine. This is what happens if we have no spirit of doing things. If we do not throw the light of our devotedness to our practice. We are not devoted to the practice. We believe that the practice should be useful to us, and we never believed that our practice is more valuable than ourselves. That means we are never prepared to offer ourselves to yoga. We want only to offer yoga to ourselves. So the whole thing is a waste. And the next thing, no continuity of effort. This is the last obstacle Patanjali enumerates. Unless we have a continuity of purpose, we cannot continue it. We may not be lazy, we may not be unhealthy, we may not be insincere, but we have no purpose in life. Then it goes a waste. These are the obstacles which we cannot overcome by ourselves. And these obstacles can be overcome by starting the practice of the uttering of the sacred word. And if you are able to overcome any of these obstacles existing in you, then understand that your practice of the utterance of the sacred word is running on correct lines. Not only these obstacles, there are more dangerous and stronger psychological obstacles of a different nature. They are called greater impediments. For example, sorrow. After practicing yoga for about 10 or 15 or 20 years, suppose there is a tragic incident and a big sorrow in life. That is the end of the practice of yoga for that life. The curtain drops before the drama is completed, and only in the next birth he has to continue it. Such things also will be overcome if we begin to practice uttering Om daily. Because it is very, very difficult to overcome this obstacle called sorrow. Suppose there is a death in the family. That puts an end to many sequences occurring in the family. The next example he gives is depression, mental depressions. One fellow lost all his money in business. He is depressed and he can never recover. Previously he was practicing yoga for 10 years. Then there is a cut-off of yoga practice for that life. Any obstacle is there to create depression in mind. And the next one is called a minor obstacle. That is the movement of the body. Whenever a movement of the body is made, the mind is disturbed of yoga practice. That's why we are expected to practice sitting without any movement of any part of the body for hours together. And after a certain time, we reach a stage when we are not disturbed, even though we are walking on the street. But in the earlier stages, even the movement of any part of the body also causes an impediment. And that's the reason why breath, that is